Hi everybody, Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 4 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here today to talk about change, habits, the brain, and why change is so hard. Of course, for those of you who follow my quotes and or philosophy, you know that I tie a lot of what we do and how we think and how we feel and how we can be influential in our lives to how the brain processes information. And that has a lot to do with why change is so hard. I mean, have you ever noticed that you have an idea of what you want to change? You have a clear sense of the new behavior you want to do. And yet we find ourselves so often falling back into that old habitual behavior. I experienced this firsthand last week when I was down in Grand Cayman on the Cayman Islands. I was doing several presentations for several wonderful organizations down there. And in order to get around to them, I had to rent a car. Well, of course, down there, they drive on the left-hand side of the road, and most of the steering wheels are actually on the right-hand side of the car. So as you can imagine, you get into the car, and all of a sudden, it feels weird. And then you have to be very, very purposeful in order to not have that brain just take over and go to the other side of the road. This was my 3rd visit to Grand Cayman, so I was kind of prepared for this. And I did a pretty good job of staying on the left-hand side of the road. I was very purposeful about that. But every once in a while, I would want to turn, so I would just flip the turn signal. Well, the turn signal on those cars were over here. So here would be the windshield wipers going back and forth. And there was one time when we were going in one of those roundabouts where several cars are coming in different directions and you're just kind of supposed to know who has the right of way. Well, I was already kind of doing my best to stay on the right-hand side of the road. And so when I came up there, I started to go and my passenger went, "Look out." And I immediately looked to see where the car was coming from. Of course, the car was coming from the other direction. But you see, my brain in that look-out, fight or flight reaction didn't process that. And I think that's the challenge we have to understand, is that so many of our habits are unconscious. And therefore, in order to create new habits, we've got to be very conscious, very, very purposeful. The reason all this happens is because every time we think something or do something or feel something, we create what's called a neural pathway. And just like a pathway in the woods, the more we go down that pathway, the more we repeat that particular thought or action or behavior, that pathway widens, it becomes easier to go down, and that's why some of our old habits are so powerful. That's kind of the bad news. The good news is, every time we do something new, we create a new neural pathway. So the way to make changes in your life is really not to stop the problem. It's to start or practice the solution. Now, the challenge is, initially, that's going to be somewhat awkward because it's not going to be natural. We're going to have to think about it. We're going to be very purposeful in doing it. However, if we do that over and over and over, we're creating a new neural pathway and going down it again and again and again, and pretty soon, that will become a habit. Now, they say it takes 21 days to change a habit. Well, I wasn't going to be in Grand Cayman, unfortunately, for 21 days, so I wasn't expecting this new way of being or driving just to become a habit. I had to be very, very purposeful. And I had to be very purposeful also about when I had to react without thinking what part of the brain that went to, because if it went to the brainstem, that reactive, old, habitual part, then I was in trouble. And that's what happens when we're trying to create change and we find ourselves doing that old behavior. We're going to that old, habitual part of the brain. If we can go, okay, good information, we don't have to get worried or frightened about that because worry and fear come from that old habitual part of the brain. We just want to create that new neural pathway and go down it again and again. Now, the good news is we can do this in our imagination because when we imagine doing a new behavior, it creates and reinforces this new neural pathway. So while doing the behavior is wonderful, and I encourage you to do that as much as possible, even imagining the new behavior can be a way to create change in your life in a way that is more purposeful, makes the statements you want to make about who you are, and in a way you would teach to those you love. I hope you're finding these videos valuable. I'm having a ball bringing them to you. If you would like to receive my video every week, along with 2 or 3 paragraphs, how to apply a quote of mine to your life, you can go to my website, billcrawfordphd.com, hit the subscribe button, sign up for my weekly quotes. They're free, and each week I will send you one of these videos and one of my favorite quotes. If you want me to come and do a presentation to your organization about change, leadership, stress, dealing with difficult people, any of that, also go to my website, hit the contact button, and let me know what you're interested in. And of course, if you're interested in working with me as a psychologist, coach, go to that website, hit the contact button, and let me know. In the meantime, here's to you creating those new purposeful neural pathways, going down them again and again until they become the habit that you want to create. Here's to you bringing more clarity, confidence, and creativity into everything you do, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.